We Americans, Catholics included, American Catholics included, are so obsessed with facts, and we fail to distinguish truth from facts. Modern Western culture is the only culture that has identified truth with factuality. We are starved for myths in this culture. We think of myth as that which is spurious, that which is false, that which never happened. Well, myth is that which will always be true and never happen. Humans need myths. And myths exist in the Bible, in Genesis chapter 1 through 11, those chapters. The literary genre is myth. But not myth as Americans understand myth, BS. Myth as has been understood by the vast majority of the world's human beings, which is that which will always be true, but never happen like that. It's because only the gods or God know the distant past. But it's evident that something happened because look at the condition now. Look at the situation we're in. That's undeniable. Reading the Bible literally sounds to American Christians, Catholics included, like reading the Bible in a manner that is traditional. By the way, that also is true for atheists. Atheists think that the traditional way of reading the Bible, atheists, American atheists, the traditional way of reading the Bible is reading it literally. But that's not true. In fact, biblical fundamentalism is only a little more than 100 years old, a little less than 100 years old. Actually, probably a little more now. The literalist tradition is a product only of the last 3 centuries and is largely a Protestant reaction to the Enlightenment and Modernism. So that means that when you start going into saints like St. Augustine, St. Thomas Aquinas, and others, they're not reading things like later fundamentalists are. They have an eye for allegory, and they have an eye for truth being expressed in a much richer way. But you know what we do? We tend to retroject our ways of looking at things onto ancient people's ways of looking at things, ethnocentrically and anachronistically. I want you to take a moment to consider the typical manger scene. It isn't a Bible study that you all were introduced to Christmas time. It was things like this, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. And tied in with that was a full wave of emotions and earthy sentiments, which are very good, by the way, and are the engine by which traditions go on and by which people find meaning in life. So please, I'm not dumping these things. But I want you to understand, if you're only at this level, you're not really going to understand what Matthew and Luke were describing. Look at that scene for a moment. I want you to list the elements. What do you see? An angel. Okay, what else? A star. You got an angel and a star. You know, in the first century world, angels were stars and stars were angels. You and I see stars as, you know, balls of gas radiating out light years from Earth, right? Is that how the ancient biblical people thought of stars? Or did they think of them as other than human persons on the dome of the sky? Or the sky vault? Okay, what other elements do you see?
3 wise men.
Mary, okay, you see 3 wise men. Does the text where we read about the wise men say there were wise men or that there were 3? Keep going. All right, what else do you see?
Baby Jesus.
Little baby Jesus, that's right.
Yeah.
Good. What else do you see?
Of course, Joseph.
Of course, Joseph, right?
The animals.
And animals, right? You got dromedaries there. Okay. All right.
And the king, the seven,
I want you to consider the elements that are seen in this picture from the scene that properly belongs to the Matthean infancy narrative, Matthew chapter 1 and 2. What's missing from the picture?
It's kind of big.
No, he's in Mary's hands. I know the picture's a little off.
Right.
All right, what's missing? The manger's missing.
The star is missing. The angel.
Okay, the star is missing. Let's say that the picture, is limited to very close up, so the star should be overhead. Manger's missing. What else is missing from you? Camels. What else?
The shepherd.
The shepherds are missing. What else? Angels are missing. Right? Well, guess what? That's all. That's the scene you get in Matthew. Jesus isn't born in a manger in Matthew.
Born in a house.
No, but this is when those wise men arrived, they went to their house.
Yeah.
To Mary's house.
To the house.
So it shouldn't be any mention.
There's no manger at all. Yes, Linda. Sure.
In the Rosary, the mystery of that event is detachment from the world. Can you wedge that in somewhere?
We can work on that. Sure, exactly as we go along. That's fine. That's fine. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah, right. Of course, the Rosary itself draws more heavily on Luke, doesn't it? Because Luke features more prominently Mary. Matthew features more prominently Joseph. In Matthew, the Annunciation is to Joseph. In Luke, the Annunciation is to Mary. In sharing about the 3 stages of gospel development, we noted that the most important stage for Christian faith is the time of the gospel writers themselves, stage 3. This is because it is in that stage that the evangelist's inspired insights into the meaning of Jesus Christ can be discerned. Today's cultural preference for historically verifiable information can sometimes lead Christians to forget that when we read the Gospels, we are not reading history in the modern American sense of the word, or modern Western sense of the word. And we can forget to look for the religious meaning in what we read. The principle that we're talking about here is perhaps most important in regard to the infancy narratives in the Gospels called Matthew and Luke. Although they do contain some historical data, these chapters are especially driven by theological interests. Stage 3 perspectives, meaning the writer's concerns, insights, and issues, predominate their infancy stories, and both narratives summarize and introduce the distinctive theological theme of each evangelist. Again, the Bible is all true, and some of it actually happened. Hearing the distinctive voices of Matthew and Luke is made all the more difficult by the blending together of the 2 accounts in our Christmas observances and devotions. The unique insight of Matthew and the unique insight of Luke can be easily obscured in a combined, meshed together like a cake batter story, often seen in Christmas pageants and creches, in which, for example, Matthean Magi find Jesus in a Lucan manger, together with Lucan shepherds under a Matthean star.